Johnny and Justin were two simple Imagineers at Disneyland until they dared to ask the question,
Hey Justin, is Disney diverse?
Well, Johnny, I'm not.
Oh no, we've angered the mouse!
Stormtroopers, run!
Holy crap, it's a gathering of cookies!
Now, from undisclosed locations within the Disney park, Johnny and Justin record a podcast where they seek to answer the question, is the Disney catalog diverse?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Disney+Diversity, where we review Disney catalog to see how diverse and inclusive it is. Today, we're reviewing Bao, and if you're noticing something, I am missing a co-host. I hope, if you guys have been following our show, we've been on the run from the Disney Corporation, and the pandemic has clearly not stopped them from trying to scare us, and I'm a little worried that my co-host is a little unavailable, and he should be fine, but... We will proceed with the show and with our guest. Today, we have a special guest with us to discuss this very special and kind of untraditional for our series film. Guest, may you please introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm JPG, and I am a pop culture critic and geek educator on In Quest of Geek.
And with that title, like, explain that exactly. What does that pertain for your show?
So really, oh gosh, that's a whole big question. In Quest of Geek, it's billed as guiding your next pop culture journey, right? So if you're a beginning person and you want to jump into pop culture in general, or if you're a veteran that just wants to learn more about the topics that they already love, we cover absolutely everything. So In Quest of Geek in total is going to be it's a multi-production of Twitch streams, weekly podcasts, actual play RPGs, but we want to make sure that we're there in order to be the gate crashers instead of the gatekeepers on this as well. So I act as the pop culture critic and geek educator. I'm really here to just make sure that you guys learn cool things so you can talk to other people about your nerdy stuff.
Awesome. Now going a little bit deeper into your own personal kind of backstory a little bit, tell us a little bit maybe your education. What kind of stuff did you kind of did you go through in terms of becoming this with your area of expertise?
Yeah, so oh gosh, I speak I'm based in Southern California. I speak on some of the largest stages that we have for conventions and events. I talk a lot about how the things that we love, right? Comic books, video games, board games, all of that stuff can act as sort of supplemental teaching tools, right? So it's not just the news that you're using. It's not just textbooks. It's really the things that you already enjoy. What can you learn from it as well? So I've gotten to do some really cool things, right? I've gotten to help teach graphic novel classes at the college level. I've gotten to teach Dungeons and Dragons dice statistics to for corporate events and things like that. So it's really just whatever you already enjoy. What are the actual things that you're learning from it?
Awesome. And before we proceed to talk about our film today, what's your favorite Disney anything? So ride, food, movie, show.
Oh, that changes as we go. That changes on a daily basis. Can I count Marvel as a part of the Disney brand right now? Yeah. Okay, I've done this thing where to make myself feel better anytime that I'm sad, I watched the scene where all of the audience cheers when Captain America grabs Mjolnir for the first time.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
If you ever feel bad about your day and you like Marvel, that will always 100% perk you up in that moment.
That is I 100% agree with that. I I will never forget the day I was in the movie theater when that moment happened. So yeah.
I think there are very few moments in pop culture where I will absolutely lose it and just be a fan.
Yeah.
I lost it during that moment, right?
Yeah.
And for me personally, I was actually invited to a press screening for this as well. So I saw it a few days before everybody else got to as well. And when you're in that sort of scenario, everybody's like quiet and taking notes and all that stuff. That's the one film where I saw every journalist just lose their mind. So that it's a very special memory for me.
That's awesome. Because no, I've been to plenty of those press screenings myself. And it is you are in a room full of very, like, this is their job. They watch these all day long, and a lot of them isn't good. But once in a while, when you get that, like, movies are good movies, and good movie moments are good movie moments. You can't get rid of it. So I'm totally with you on that. So today we'll be talking about the Pixar short, Bao. And this is kind of a little untraditional for us. Normally we would do a full feature-length film, or we would do like 5 episodes of a TV show. But I wanted to talk about this one specifically because we're currently in our Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month series of episodes. I felt this needed to be brought up. Now, I want to also bring up something else. We're both Filipino. And obviously there is a beautiful Filipino Pixar short called Float, that I did consider kind of lumping. I even at one point considered maybe having us talk about both, but the reason I'm gonna hold off on Float is I have hopes for other ideas for Float later on, but also I feel like Float is a story that I do recall that Bobby Rubio originally pointed out that he wrote that story but didn't have Filipinos in mind until they pushed him, like, no, make them Filipino. And he's like, I didn't know that was even an option. And so it is, and that movie is beautifully done. But I think why I wanted to focus on Bao is that Bao is very specifically an Asian story, an Asian American story too, but it's definitely is a story with Asian culture in it, more so than Float. No disregard to Float. But I do feel like Bao taps into it a little bit more directly. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
So I have a very strange relationship with Bao in the sense where, of course, when films want to make you feel emotion, I feel that emotion. I may not express it physically, but I definitely feel that emotion. Bao was placed right in front of The Incredibles 2, which, The Incredibles is one of my absolute favorite films, and I was so excited to see The Incredibles 2. I missed the first 15 minutes of The Incredibles 2, mostly because I cried my eyes out and then had to call my mom after in order to apologize for everything. And that's not an exaggeration, right? One of my co-hosts on Inquest Geek, Alex, is also my wife, and she had to just walk me through all of these emotions. She's like, I think you need to call your mom, like, let's go sit outside for a few minutes. And then so of course, in preparation for this again, I'm like, you know what, it hit me real hard last time. It could have just been that I was overly emotional and I was very excited for The Incredibles. I'm just going to, sit here and I'm just going to make sure that I can watch this again. The first time I watched Bao, right, it was that gradual sort of I'm just going to, it's all the emotions welling up and then it gets me to the cry moment, right, the catharsis. Right. This time, when I watched it again, it was a full straight punch in the mouth. I just immediately started crying. Like, there was no buildup. I just lost my mind, right? And I guess the first thing is can you make me feel better about this? Did you cry also for this?
So, before I get into my feelings, if in case you have not seen Bao, I don't know why you watch this episode, but a quick summary: the film is about an aging and lonely Chinese Canadian mother suffering from kind of empty nest syndrome, and she receives kind of the second chance at motherhood when a steamed bao that she was making comes to life. That's the general premise of the short. And so I saw the film with my mom because we tend to go. Sometimes I take my mom to the movies, and she likes to. She loves Disney films, and so we were definitely went to go see Incredibles 2, and so I was not prepared for this film, and the whole time I'm sitting next to my mother, and it takes like not it's interesting, like I think it's very safe to say the majority of us like second gen Asian Ams who grew up in another country that's not the motherland where our family came from, we always will have like interesting relationships with our parents, and the idea that like you said, like you felt like you had to call your mom right away. I was like put my arm over my mom, right? Like when I realized what the story was. And I feel this is an interesting situation, and I don't want to really go too deep into this, but I feel like there is a period in Asian Am storytelling in media and movies that the storytelling choice was talking about the struggles of us we were born in the States, and our parents will never understand us, until the day they will understand us. There's a lot of narrative movies, Asian American independent films and stories that, especially in the early 2000s, that were all about that identity and trying to figure out where you place in the country you grew up in, as opposed to the country where your family came from. But I find it fascinating. There's a small percentage of stories now that includes Bao, Alan Yang's Tiger Tail, and a specific episode of Master of None, that I find it fascinating that we're now seeing the second generation storytellers looking at their parents and going, I want to understand you more.
I think there was very much, and I think as we grow in storytelling, right, our maturity grows with it also.
Yes.
And I think at first, we, when we were telling these stories 10, 20 years ago, we were very much in that angsty emo phase of 100%. No one will understand me, right? Now we've gotten outside of ourselves for this, and I love the description that you gave for Bao. Like I love the idea of the empty nest, but I also want to make sure that like we also acknowledge the read that this is just the child experience in general, right? It's there was something that was missing in this woman's life. And you get that from the sense of like the watching of like the Mandarin soap operas at the very beginning of this, right? The husband having to abruptly leave for work, right? Where us as these as the first generation that was born in another country for our parents, we were a very fulfilling moment for them, and as we go, right, I think now the trick is whenever you're an Asian American storyteller, as long as you add food and family, I'm just going to cry. Like, I'm gonna lose my mind in this theater, because that is so personal, and just God, the character design for this just in general. I can't believe it, right? Getting to see people like us on screen is still crazy to me. It's still crazy to me that I get to see this stuff.
No, agreed. I kind of do want to zero in on the food thing for a minute, because you're right. There is something very specific about like our culture, whether we're Filipino or Chinese or what have you, but food is a huge part of our Asian culture and in our American upbringing. And it's like there's even a conflict of food, like growing up with the food that your family fed you versus the food that's available to everyone else. And I find it always fascinating that is a zero in, like a matrix upload to your head of trying to understand another cultures when you see another culture's food. And I remember when this short was playing, that there's that one shot specifically of like kind of like the stir fry, this beef stir fry, that the audience, you can hear a little verbal go, ooh. Like that. Well, that looks pretty good.
I think also too, right? We I believe it's Joshua Luna the artist who talks about this as well.
Yes.
About how, there's especially when we were much younger, 10, 20, 30 years ago, there was a type of shame that was attached to our food as well, right? Where if your parents packed a Filipino lunch for you or an Asian lunch for you, and this is what you ate as a kid, right? It was shameful to take it to school, right?
Yeah.
I specifically remember hiding stuff like that and eating real fast and just throwing away the lunch. And now I sincerely, I can't even believe how much I regret that. And so to connect the food with emotion, like we usually do, because I think for a lot of Asian American kids, a lot of Asian American people, we connect food to like a show of love.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this also, with Bao, I really do truly believe that this was written like from my diary, right? Because it's all about, like a chubby Asian kid just being real close to his mom and then wanting to make friends and then bringing home a white wife, right? because that's,
You better call Becky with the good hair.
and it speaks to a lot of cultural fears when it comes to the parental experience, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, but it is always going to be an uncomfortable conversation to bring to bring your partner who is another ethnicity, another gender, another identity, right? Like it's always going to be that discomfort, right? But then I think they really represent the selfishness of a parent, like that loving selfishness, right? Like so well, because she just straight up eats him at the end, right?
There is so much to unpack about the act of literally eating the Bao child, and like I was even reading a bit about the writer-director Domi Shi. She pointed out the fact that like the original, and that was when she came up with that ending, she was like, well, that might be a little too dark for Pixar. And so she talked to her mentor, who was Pete Docter, who recently co-wrote and co-directed Soul, asking, hey, is this too much? And Pete's like, no, go there, and even with the approval of that, she was like, there were versions of it where the mom chewed.
Yeah, that's
you're right. And like there were people who went, no, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's too much. And she's like, okay, got it.
Yeah, because the one gulp is like it's comical and it's shocking, right? Like that's exactly the type of feeling that you want to catch from this. But then also I think I read some interviews with Domishi as well, and what she was trying to get across is something that her mom used to always say to her, which is, I wish I could just put you back in my stomach so I know exactly where you are at all times.
Yeah.
And it's a very cute thing to say to a kid, but then when you actually see it on screen, it's so jarring, right? And I think a lot of people in non-Asian circles really couldn't get over the fact that they couldn't read the subtext of this as well. Because I think this is a gigantic, this was like a gigantic thing that a lot of non-Asian critics focused on. Like, well, why did she eat him? And no, that's not. The fact is, it's not the act of eating. It's the idea that the selfishness has brought her to the point of this crime of passion, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I would assume, might hear me out. I would assume when you realize her real son, who shows up at the end, who is in the shape of the child we've seen throughout the entirety of the film, but is not a person made of dough. I would assume that when he shows up at the end, most of me was like, of course, the Bao child is a representation of him. I would assume you would figure that was the obvious. Okay, that's what we were watching. That's not real. There wasn't a magic Bao that turned to life. No, it's a mental manifestation of what she's been dealing with 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 the situation with her relationship with her adult son now. Okay, that's what it is. But the fact is, what you're bringing up, which is just drove me a little bit nuts, was seeing all these people's reactions that were not Asian. That was I don't get it. That was weird. What was that? I don't understand that. Why did that happen? What? It's like, how did you guys not get that?
I will argue that if you don't understand the ending of it, you don't love your parents. And I'm just going to put that out there. I'm just going to put that out there right now, right? Like, if you don't understand the ending of Bao, you don't love your parents.
It's a hot,
and
coming in hot, JPG.
It's a hot take. It's a hot take. It is a hot take. So I mean, going back to that as well, right? Like, this is the whole reason why this is a basically wordless short, right? Yes. Yeah. And Domichi also wanted to get across the point that you don't need words for this context, because a love between a parent and a child, that's just every culture, right? If we can depend on something that is in every culture, it is that parents love their kids. That's it.
Yeah. And I think I feel like equal parts what you just said, that you don't love your parents if you did not get the ending of that short. The other part of me, it feels like to sound a little mean, but I mean, I feel like I kind of want to at this point, just seeing how things are. That also means that all you saw was just Asian folks, and you didn't want to try to understand what the short was trying, despite the fact that Domichi was trying her best, and the crew was trying their best to tell a story that anyone could understand. There's no, like, that's the other, that's a beautiful thing about it being silent, is that anyone could watch it, and you don't need subtitles, you don't need to understand. It's all this subtext and context of storytelling that I think is beautifully done in that short. But if all you still see is, Asian people, and I don't get this world, it's like, well, you didn't even try.
Yeah.
Because this movie was really easy to figure out.
And when we get back to the whole crux of it, right? Like, the whole reason we're putting out content like this is so you can try, right? Is so you can understand where we're coming from for this,
right?
And oh gosh, sorry, I'm still like, I literally just watched it like right before I came on here as well, and like I'm still, those like sniffles you get after you cry, like I've been doing that this entire show also.
Right. It's like you're holding it, it's like,
oh yeah.
And
well, no, I think the worst part of that was, I think the strongest scene that we have from this is when the adult son comes back and he brings back the little pink box. Our childhoods were filled with those pink boxes. And so to open it and then they start eating and then they both start crying, that breaks me every time. It really, like, it's too much at that point.
Absolutely. No,
you're
I agree.
just kicking me while I'm down.
I do want to ask a question, I'm curious about this. Is there anything here that you feel might have maybe any form of anything negative you could think of concerning the film? Is there anything you kind of feel like, I'm not sure?
This is tough, right? Because culturally, I connect to this so much that I tend to turn that critic part of my brain off at that point, right? And so I would also say, I think one of its truest strengths is its brevity, right? You can't mess up too much in 7 minutes. And I think that's why, okay, so main example for this is there's a short film called Cargo. Have you ever seen this before?
No, I haven't heard of it. No.
Okay, so Cargo came out a few years ago, and it was made by, I think, Australian or New Zealander filmmakers. And it was a short film about a dad gets bitten by his zombie wife. And they get in a car crash and everything, and you figure out that they still have a baby on board. And so he knows he's going to turn. So he's trying to walk as far as he can in order to get the baby to safety.
Wow.
And it's this incredible story, right? And then they turned it into like a 2-hour film. And I don't know if it was ever like fully produced or anything like that, but Martin Freeman was supposed to be a part of it as well. Taking something like that, right? I think with giving it length, it doesn't have the emotional impact. If that was a full film, I don't know if I would have this emotional impact. So I think that's really what I'm taking from it. If this was more than 15 minutes, I don't know if I would have cried as hard.
Right. I think people tend to forget. No, agreed. I think it's the exact length of time, and it got. I think it's more impressive that you can get these emotional moments from us in 7 minutes. That's why I'm really looking forward to Domi Shi's feature film coming up, Turning Red, her first Pixar feature-length film.
Oh, so I actually don't know about this.
Oh yeah, no, they announced that she will be making her feature-length debut as a director within some time. I don't know what's coming out, but I'm already looking forward to it. If she can get me in 7 minutes, I'm looking forward to what she will do with hopefully, I don't know, 90 or so. All right, so we are now finally ready to do our rating. So here is our 3 choices. Either we are rating this as woke, waking, or sleep as shit. So please take your writing utensil of any fashion and go ahead and write your rating.
And the Oscar goes to Bow.
This is the first Oscar and nomination for Domi Shi and Becky Neiman-Cobb.
Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to my fellow nominees. Thank you for supporting shorts. To all of the nerdy girls out there who hide behind their sketchbooks, don't be afraid to tell your stories to the world.
On the count of 3, we are getting ready to show our ratings. And 1, 2, 3.
I don't know if you can see mine, but it's woke.
It's woke.
Oh my God, look at little Bow.
Little Bow.
No, I honestly think this is probably one of the most woke things that we have seen from Disney and Pixar. The fact that you can translate so many cultural things with absolutely no words is a feat that really does deserve its Academy Award that it got. Right?
I agree, absolutely.
Honestly, if it wouldn't have won the 2019 Academy Award for short film, I would have rioted.
No, Sam. I like what was literally better than this short. I don't. I don't like. Hey. Okay. So I gotta. Okay. Okay, so hey, JPG, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on. Please don't forget to check him out for Inquest Geek. And I might be seeing Johnny sooner than I realize. Okay, take care, everyone. Take care, and bye.
You guys, sorry I couldn't be there this week. Like Justin said, I'm on the hide right now. Literally hiding in my closet. Oh my gosh, Disney's so close. But thank you all for tuning in. And as you know, we're on the road to 100 subscribers. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Again, please tell your friends about us. And hopefully Disney won't catch us. Tune in next week as we continue our Asian Pacific Islander Month episodes. And oh yeah, I gave Bow woke too. Bye y'all.